Okay, it's been about a week since I finally saw Man of Steel. And just like The Dark Knight, it's one of those comic book adaptations that's just so much movie, you can't take it in all at once. You must stew over it. So, the big question is whether or not this is the Batman Begins of Superman films. The short answer, no. But it's still a fun film and well worth your time. Of course, listening to all the professional critics, you think that's not the case. All this whining and bitching about a lack of lighthearted fun. But mostly, you read the review summaries over at Rotten Tomatoes, and you get the sense that Henry Cavill simply committed the crime of starring in a Superman movie while not being Christopher Reeve. It's like the opposite of all the bitching about the Star Wars prequels. The prequels got slammed by adults who remembered seeing the originals as kids, but were aghast to realize that the new films were also accessible to today's kids. The horror! But this new Superman is getting lambasted for not being all fluffy and fun-loving like the old films. Another thing is, wasn't Green Lantern ripped on for somehow not being dark and edgy enough? People, some consistency. Make up your minds! Anyway, to such critics, I say go sodomize yourselves with a mother box. For one, I applaud Warner Brothers for not insisting upon family friendliness. That's what ensured Superman 3 was an utter failure. And later on, pressuring Joel Schumacher to go that route doomed Batman and Robin. They finally learned their lesson. But is the new Superman as dark and moody as Batman? Oh, hells no. If it seems that way, it's only because the world Superman inhabits is darker. Muted colors, a constant sense of tension, and even Superman's suit isn't as flashy, employing a darker navy blue. And of course, no red undies. This is a lot like his new costume in the comics anyway. Deal with it! But Superman himself still shines like a beacon of hope in this world, and his behavior, attitudes, and general conduct are still day to Batman's night. Superman may not come out and say he's for truth, justice, and the American way, but it's clear that he's committed to doing the right thing, no matter how painful or difficult, and that's what Superman is all about. And do I prefer Henry Cavill to Christopher Reeve? Yes! Yes, yes, yes. In the old Superman films, most of the time it was hard convincing myself that Superman had any difficulty making his choices, outside of bits in Superman 2 and 4. In contemporary terms, he was a big old Gary Stew. Here, I got the sense of some real internal struggles, and could empathize with how conflicted Superman must have felt. But he rises to the occasion and makes a choice to become Superman. It's a lot like how the original Spider-Man dealt with choosing the hero's path, albeit with a lot more subtlety. Is there anything I can complain about? Yeah, it's the clunky pacing and flow. I must say that Superman 2 is still my favorite of the bunch, thanks to being a case study in perfect pacing and a climactic payoff. The way flashbacks are peppered in here and there, nowhere near as smooth as in Batman Begins. But is there payoff? Oh, hells yeah. I've heard people say that the last few action scenes prove it's possible to do a Dragon Ball movie right. I'm not even a DBZ fan and I agree. There are things I can nitpick about, like, how does one half of the world engine thingy wind up landing in Metropolis? I mean, Clark Kent doesn't join the Daily Planet until the very end of the movie. And Zod didn't really know Lois Lane worked there, did he? Was there any special reason to send it to Metropolis? But such little niggles are typically overshadowed by broad brushstrokes of awesome. The prologue with Krypton's final days was masterful, and I don't care what anyone says. Amy Adams was good as Lois Lane, and the character had much more to do than be rescued by Superman, though that does happen often. It's Lois Lane in a Superman movie, what do you expect? And those put off by the controversial choice Superman makes at the end of the final fight, people, you're overreacting. Anyway, if you were faced with that choice, knowing Zod meant every word he said, what would you have done? All in all, not in the same league as Nolan's Batman trilogy, but a worthy start to what hopefully makes a DC cinematic universe. I give Man of Steel an 8 out of 10.